Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be focusing on muscle hypertrophy in the legs. Now, before we dive into the exercises, it is essential that we understand the anatomy of the legs. But right before that, let me brief you with some key vocabulary. The words anterior, posterior, lateral, and medial are used to indicate the general location of certain body parts. They are akin to the terms starboard and port that are used on a vessel. They serve the same general purpose. Interior is used to indicate a location on the front side of the body, while posterior is used to indicate a location on the back side of the body. And lateral is used to indicate a location on the outer left or right sides of your body, while medial is used to indicate a location on the inward facing side of your body. For example, the inner facing part of your thigh. You will see these terms reappear in the names of many muscles, especially in the legs. Now, what exactly constitutes the legs? The legs are composed of four main muscle groups: the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the calves. There are, of course, others, but for the sake of muscle hypertrophy, these are the only ones worth focusing on. The quadriceps are often the most well-known muscle group in the legs, and the muscles that people tend to subconsciously emphasize the most. For a brief rundown on anatomy, the quadriceps are an anterior muscle chain, or, as mentioned previously, a front muscle group. The quads, as implied in the name, consist of four individual muscles, those being the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, the vastus intermedius, and the rectus femoris. The vastus lateralis, the largest of the quad muscles, is located on the outer portion of your upper leg and originates at the top of your outer thigh, and then courses down to attach to your patella, or kneecap. When well developed, the vastus lateralis creates a very aesthetic, outwardly sweeping shape to your thigh. The vastus medialis is located on the inner portion of your upper leg, has similar attachment points to that of the vastus lateralis, and runs down the inside of your thigh. The vastus intermedius is the deepest of the quad muscles, sitting right on your femur, or the thigh bone. The intermedius in the name is used to indicate its central position on the leg. It courses down the middle of your thigh, and interestingly, is partially covered by the rectus femoris. Moving on, the rectus femoris is the only quad muscle with two heads, meaning that it essentially has two parts. Again, the rectus femoris partially covers the aforementioned vastus intermedius. The rectus femoris originates as two different points on your pelvis, or the hip bone, and then runs down to your thigh to an attachment point on the patella, or kneecap. Now that we have covered anatomy, what basic functions and movements do our quads help us perform? Well, they simply help straighten and stabilize our knee, and are active in exercises such as running, walking, swimming, and practically any sport you can think of. The hamstrings are a posterior muscle chain in the upper leg. They consist of the biceps femoris, not the arm muscle, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. The biceps femoris is a big, long muscle on the back of the thigh and has two heads, a long and a short. The long head attaches to the lower back part of the hip bone, and then to the tibia or shin bone. The short head attaches to the femur bone, and then to the fibula. The semitendinosus is another large hamstring muscle that originates at the inner side of your pelvis, runs down your back leg to then cross the knee and attach to the top of your tibia. This muscle actually runs over the semimembranosus as it crosses the knee. The semimembranosus is found on the back of the thigh, attaches to your pelvis, and then runs down to your tibia. In regard to the functions and movements of the hamstrings, they are used to flex the knee joint and extend to the back side of the body. They assist in virtually all lower body movements, such as walking and running, but more specifically, They help flex the knee joint and contract it towards the back side of your body. To help visualize that, just think of the motion you perform when doing butt kickers. That's essentially the primary hamstring movement. The glutes are also a primarily posterior, but also lateral muscle chain. They are composed of the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, and the gluteus minimus. The gluteus maximus, as I'm sure many of you know, is in fact the largest and most powerful muscle in your entire body. It makes up a large portion of the shape and appearance of your hips, and is actually very close to the skin, meaning that when you touch your buttocks, you will be right on your gluteus maximus. The gluteus medius is a broad, thick, and fan-shaped sort of muscle that sits on the side of your hip right above the much larger gluteus maximus. On the other hand, the gluteus minimus is the deepest and smallest of the glute muscles. It can be found right under the similarly shaped medius. Now, for the functions and movements of the glutes, they help move your lower body at the hip joint. As a whole, the three primary glute muscles extend, rotate, and move your leg towards and away from your body. Moreover, they also perform hip abduction and hip adduction. Hip abduction is the movement of your leg away from the midline of your body, while hip adduction is the movement of your leg towards the midline of your body. Your calf muscles are a posterior muscle chain found on your lower leg. It is composed of two muscles, those being the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The gastrocnemius is the largest of the two calf muscles, and also has two heads. Both heads originate behind your knee. The medial or inside head arises from the medial condyle of the back of your femur, while the lateral or outside head arises from the lateral condyle of your femur. A condyle, by the way, is a rounded protuberance that can be found at the end of certain bones that help form an articulation with other bones. The gastrocnemius muscle then courses down the back of your lower leg to join the deeper soleus muscle. They both form the Achilles tendon and attach on the posterior aspect of your calcaneus, or heel bone. The gastrocnemius is superficial, so can easily be seen and touched. The soleus is a large, deep, flat muscle located underneath the gastrocnemius. It originates from the back side of your upper tibia, or shin bone, and then runs down the back of your lower leg to join the gastrocnemius at the Achilles tendon to then insert on the back side of your heel bone. Sorry for the repetition there. In terms of function, the calf muscles work together to perform one essential movement, plantar flexion. Plantar flexion is an extension of the ankle or the pointing of the foot and toes downward. Plantar flexion will contract the calf, but dorsiflexion, the pointing of the foot and toes upwards, will stretch the calf. Not unlike the other leg muscle groups, the calves literally play a part in every single lower body movement. Running, walking, ascending or descending stairs, you name it. However, they especially assist in jumping movements. Although their size seems to indicate otherwise, the calves are truly a very powerful and essential muscle that is active in virtually any type of weight-bearing activity. Now, finally, what you have all been anxiously awaiting. What exactly are the best exercises to effectively induce muscle hypertrophy, or in other words, muscle growth? I'll give it to you plain and simple. The best overall exercise for leg growth is a good old squat. The squat is simply an all-encompassing movement that activates every single muscle in your leg. When done correctly, a squat is indisputably the best there is. However, if you are looking to emphasize a certain muscle group, then there definitely are certain variations of the squat to suit your needs. The general rule of thumb is the closer your legs are together, or the straighter your feet are, the more emphasis you are putting on your quadriceps. As you can see here, my legs are about shoulder length apart, and my knees and feet are facing directly forward. As I squat down, I am fixating more on my quads than any other leg muscle. On the contrary, the wider your stance is when squatting, the more emphasis you are putting on your glutes and hamstrings. A prime example of this is the sumo squat. There are also plenty other variations such as the back squat, my personal favorite, the front squat, the goblet squat, and the pull squat. Now, aside from the squat, I'll divide the exercises into separate groups based on the muscle they are activating. For quads, other excellent exercises include leg extensions, the leg press, and weighted lunges. For the hamstrings, I would suggest the hamstring extensions, good mornings, and single leg Romanian deadlifts. For the glutes, I would suggest hip thrusts, any type of deadlift, donkey kicks, and monster walks. Finally, for the calves, since there really is only one way to contract them, stick with the rather obvious calf raise. There is a plethora of variations for this exercise, though. For example, calf raises can be done seated or standing, body weight or weighted, with a dumbbell or a barbell, on a machine, or literally anywhere, preferably in a place where you can slightly elevate the front part of your foot a few inches, allowing you to get a fuller and deeper range of motion when you perform the exercise. Although this isn't necessarily the best for hypertrophy, jump roping definitely relies heavily on your calves. So, any sport or exercise that you really have to jump in, such as basketball, could activate your calves as well. As I'm sure you may have already noticed, all the muscle groups in your legs work together as one big machine to perform all your day-to-day movements, such as running, walking, standing up, sitting down, ascending or descending stairs, etc. That, my friends, is a comprehensive, but in the grand scope of things, relatively brief anatomy and explanation of the leg muscle groups. However, before I cut it off, I do want to take some time to remind you that the gym only lays the cement. Your diet, sleep, and other habits harden and polish the cement. In fact, the food you eat and the hours you sleep are even more important than the gym. The gym is step 1, of course, but without step 2, forget about the final result. I'm not here to give you a full workout plan, but it is imperative that you incorporate things such as progressive overload, pyramid progression, and reps until failure into your workouts. Progressive overload simply is the gradual increase of your max weight or reps over a longer period of time, that being weeks, months, and even years. While pyramid progression is essentially the same thing, but over a much shorter time period, such as in the course of one workout. For example, as you progress through your sets in a workout, either increase the weight and lower the reps, or increase the reps and lower the weight. Finally, reps until failure is just as miserable as it sounds. I know it sucks, but many times you just have to keep going until you physically can't muster the strength to continue. Alright, with that, I'm going to conclude this video. I genuinely hope that this video offered you some useful information to take away and implement into your own workouts, or perhaps just to add to your own knowledge bank, as there is no such thing as knowing too much about your own body. This is important stuff. Anyways, thank you so much for lending me your time, and have a wonderful day.